Bhagavate Aya. Please repeat.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Narayanam Namaskritya
Narayanam Namaskritya
Naram Chaiva Narottamam
Naram Chaiva Narottamam
Devim Saraswatim Vyasam
Devam Saraswatim Vyasam
Tato Jayamudhirayet
Tojayam Yudhiraye
Nashtaprayeshva Bhadreshu
Nashtaprayoshu Bhadreshu
Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya
Nityam Bhagavata Sevya
Bhagavati Uttama Shloke
Bhagavate Uttama Shloke
Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki.
Bhaktir Bhav Nashtiki.
Okay, someone remembers what we did last time? Verse 16 is what you're saying. Okay, so verse 16, let me share it so that everyone can see. Yes, everyone can see?
Yes, Mataji.
Okay. I'll just read the translation. So we're talking about Vyasadeva. So while he was in the banks of the Saraswati, he saw the great sage Vyasadeva saw anomalies in the duties of the millennium. This happens on the earth in different ages due to the unseen force of time. The great sages like Vyasadeva are liberated souls and therefore they can see clearly past and future. Thus he could see the future anomalies in the Kali Yuga. And accordingly, he made arrangement for the people in general so that they can execute a progressive life in the age, which is full of darkness. The people in general in this interested in matter, which is temporary. Because of ignorance, they are unable to evaluate the assets of life and be enlightened in spiritual knowledge. So Vyasadeva could see that people were mainly in ignorance. So therefore, he took up the task of writing down all the scriptures. Yeah. So because of ignorance, what happens? We are unable to evaluate the assets of life. What is the biggest asset in life for us? This human form is our biggest asset. Very, very important to understand that this human form of life is our biggest wealth, biggest gain. Without the human body, without this human form of life, we cannot understand anything. It is impossible for us to learn about spirituality. So if even after getting this human form of life, you are interested in matter and you do not make an effort to understand spiritual knowledge or be enlightened by spiritual knowledge, then you are most unfortunate. Right? So Kali Yuga makes even humans live an animalistic life. We are only bothered about the 4 things, right? Food. What are the 4 things? Any idea? What do animals and we have in common?
Eating, sleeping, mating, defending.
Yes, the 4 things: eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. If even after human life, we are going to talk about these 4 and not bother about being enlightened in spiritual knowledge, that's the biggest ignorance. Yes. So what is one of the greatest ignorance? We think that we are the body, and we have no idea about our spirit soul. So the biggest ignorance is identifying ourselves with the body. So 17, 18. Yeah, okay. Let's repeat after me. Bhautikānām ca bhāvānām
भौतिकानां च भावानां
shaktirāsam ca tatkritam
शक्तिर्यासं च तत्कृतम्
ashraddhadhanani sattvan
अश्रद्धदानानि सत्त्वान्
durmedhan rasitayusah
दुर्मेधान् ऋषितायुष
durbhagamscha janan vikshya
दुर्गभांश्च जनाभिक्ष्य
munirdivyena chakshusha
मुनिर्देवेन चक्षुषा
sarvavarnashramanam yad
सर्ववर्णाश्रमाणां यत्
dadyauhitam amoghadrik
दद्यौहितम् अमोघदृक्
Amoghadrik, one who is fully equipped in knowledge. We all have to become Amoghadrik. The great sage who was fully equipped in knowledge. So Amoghadrik is also another name. So he is completely equipped in knowledge. He's also an incarnation of the Lord. So obviously, he could see through his transcendental vision the deterioration of everything material due to the influence of the age. He could also see that the faithless people in general would be reduced in duration of life and would be impatient due to lack of goodness. Thus, he contemplated for the welfare of men in all statuses and orders of life. So he's talking about both Varna and Ashramas. He was saying that more and more people were moving away from Sattvagun. There was lack of goodness. So when there is a lack of goodness, there is more attraction towards materialistic. Right? Rajas and Tamas is the worst. So it's okay to be Rajas. It's easier to come to Sattvagun from Rajas. But it's impossible, or I can't say impossible, but it is sometimes very difficult from Tamagun. You need a lot of Sukriti for that. So that's why these 4 regulative principles are there, which are also the 4 pillars of Dharma. Correct? So it is very important that because he was fully equipped in knowledge, he could see that Kali Yuga was deteriorating. There was deterioration of everything material. And therefore, he wanted the welfare of all the men, of all the 4 Varnas and Ashramas. Not just, he wasn't partial to anything. The unmanifested forces of time are so powerful that they reduce all matter to oblivion in due course. In Kali Yuga, the last millennium of around 4 millenniums, the power of all material objects deteriorates by the influence of time. Age, the duration of the material body of the people in general is much reduced, and so is the memory. We saw this in the first chapter also. The action of matter has also not so much incentive. The land does not produce food grains in the same proportions as it did in other ages. The cow does not give as much milk as it used to give formerly. The production of vegetables and fruits is less than before. As such, all living beings, both men and animals, do not have sumptuous, nourishing food. Due to want of so many necessities of life, naturally the duration of life is reduced. The memory is short, intelligence is meager, mutual dealings are full of hypocrisy, and so on. So how many of you agree with this? That in general, the land does not produce food grains in proportion to how it used to. people don't have sumptuous food to eat. I mean, do we agree with this? Because if you look around, you go to shops, supermarkets, there's plenty, right? Isn't it in plenty? So how can we reconcile with what is written here? Any ideas?
But all that is contaminated, or it is like we get twisted things which are not actually pure. It is just
Genetically
simply,
modified.
yes.
Yeah.
There's no essence.
Genetically modified.
This
If you
deterioration in
feel
quality.
that, quality, correct. Yes. How many of you feel that it's do not have nourishing food? Is that true? Do you agree with what Srila Prabhupada is saying? Not because he's Srila Prabhupada. You should understand and you should believe that, yes, it's true. How many of you feel that we do not have sumptuous nourishing? Or do we or don't we?
We don't have mostly, because even milk is full of
Adulteration.
those, the antibiotics and all those things which are injected. And above all, it's all cruelty being done to even cows in factory-like setups. So we don't have that. The milk which used to be Amrit, the factory-made milk is no longer that Amrit.
Okay. Anyone else?
Very difficult to get quality products because we're trying to go for organic, pure products, right? That is actually very small in quantity or not available. But these genetically modified food and, mass produced, all those, right, where the quality is actually really less. That we get, yes, in plenty in the supermarket. But I don't think, small amount of organic food would probably be even more nutritious than, eating all of this in large quantity. But unfortunately, very difficult to get organic food or source it, if you look for something that's pure and one with nature.
Okay.
See, as we learn in Bhagavad Gita, that because of yajna, then Prabhupada has described the cycle. So in that, because of we are not doing austerities and yajna, so earth is not even producing that sumptuous and nourishes.
Yes. True. Very true.
पानी ही नहीं है पीने का. The very basic खाना पीना,
हाँ.
खाना तो बाद में आता है. पानी और अब तो हवा. पानी के बगैर भी शायद एक दिन निकल सकता है. हवा के बगैर तो शायद 1 मिनट. अब तो हवा भी नहीं है हमारे पास. So इतने we are so poor. खाना तो बहुत तीसरे नंबर पे है. NCR वाले लोगों के पास तो नहीं है. Oxygen bars now in the world.
What happened during COVID? Everybody needed an oxygen. They had
cylinders,
to buy oxygen.
we had to buy.
You had to buy oxygen. Oxygen, which was, you don't even think about oxygen, no? You're just breathing in and breathing out. Are we even thinking about it? We're not even thinking about it, even that. But when we also talk about sumptuous, nourishing food, I'm talking about this new culture of eating out. So much of eating out happens. So much. When I was growing up as a very small child, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, 7 years, it was unthinkable. बाहर का खाना. Unthinkable. Especially जब मैं नानी के घर जाती थी. Unthinkable कि बाहर का कुछ भी खाने देती थी नानी. And नानी के घर में no fridge. No leftovers. We wouldn't even have leftovers. There's no way that we would have पिछले दिन का खाना next day. क्योंकि बोलती थी that पचेगा नहीं. How can you put this? It's poison, she used to say. दिन में बनता था, जितना चाहिए उतना बनता था. and then the maid or someone on the road, any beggar who's going, ne to gaय सबको बांट देते थे. And रात को it used to be just, you know, something like a dosa or something like that, not full khana. And next day फिर से नया खरीदो, ये नहीं कि खरीद के रखा है एक हफ्ते का grocery, सब्जियां फ्रिज में सड़ रही हैं. No. Fresh in the morning, vegetables would come, buy it, cook it, eat it, and next day again, repeat. But now, okay, we're talking about that. Then the next level was not eating out. Now it's like most of the time we're thinking कि कहाँ जाना है. बाहर गए to buy something, okay, let's have pani puri. चलो चाट खा लेते हैं, चलो कुछ पी लेते हैं, चलो food court जाते हैं. Do you think any food court has sumptuous, nourishing food? Most of these fast foods is cooked in USA, frozen, and come, and probably the shelf life or the storage life is a year. So obviously what happens? Naturally, duration of life is reduced. We were just talking about, I was just talking to my other god sister from Dubai. She's talking about, I mean, people are getting heart attacks in 40s and 50s. We're not talking about old people in 70s and 80s getting heart attacks. People are getting heart attacks when they're 40s and 50s. Duration of life is reducing because of our lifestyle choices. We cannot blame anyone for it. Okay, I agree. You can't get organic food. Organic food also comes with a label. We're not sure whether it's really organic. Huh? It's again another full, what do you call, conspiracy, or it's controversial. You put, I mean, it's very easy to buy a sticker and put it, and also bribe someone to get that. It's not very difficult to do all those things. How do we know whether it's really organic? Even if it is, but without eating that, if you're going to go out and eat most of the time, how do you know what food you're getting? How do you know? Yeah? So when we talk about that, so sometimes what happens is, why I'm bringing up this topic is, people say तुम हरे कृष्णा इस्कॉन वाले बहुत ही वो है यार, पहले तो तुम लोग ना पहले तो प्याज और लहसुन छुड़ा देते हो, फिर तुम लोग चाय कॉफी भी छुड़ा देते हो, फिर बोलते हो बाहर का खाना भी नहीं खाना है. अरे ऐसे nobody can live like this. ये भी कोई जिंदगी है? You should enjoy. फिर बुढ़ापे में देखते हैं ना, when you become old and then you're not able to digest, then you eat at home, sit at home and eat. Why do you want to do that now when you can go out and have samosas and have kachoris? I'm not against these. I have done this myself. What I'm saying is, these are all reasons. These are all causes. We can't just blame you know, the produce or so much of fertilizers used or anything. We also have to think about our lifestyle choices. The reason why we do not eat food from outside, what is the reason? We have Hemangani and Vinita Uma Devidasi, two newly initiated. Why? Why don't we eat out?
Yes, Mataji, already we are cleansing our karmas. हम किसी के हाथ का बना हुआ खाना जब खाते हैं, we are taking their karmas. So
we don't take the karma. We don't take the karma.
We prefer to offer to Krishna basically and eat the food, prashadam. That's the main.
A lot of people say कि मैंने तो offer किया ना, ओम विष्णु ओम विष्णु ओम विष्णु 3 बार बोला, शीला प्रभुपाद को offer किया और मैंने खाया. Vegetarian है, without onion garlic है. Why? Because we get their consciousness. And our Bhakti Lata Bij is so tender that any consciousness of, or any twisted consciousness will affect it. This all works in a subtle level. You know, why is mother's cooking the best for the child? Because the mother doesn't have any hatred or any other thoughts other than nourishing the child. So if the person cooking is an atheist or a Mayavadi, that consciousness will affect your bhakti. If the person cooking is very attached to sex life, you will also develop an inclination towards sex life or meat eating or intoxication. If that person has a very, very, angry personality, you will also feel anger. Jaisa an, vaisa man, right? Why do we say this? Because of the consciousness. And therefore, a lot of devotees only eat prasadam cooked by initiated devotees. Because we know 16 rounds to hai na. We are all not perfect. Hamare bhi anarthas hain. But at least our sadhana is there, na? 16 rounds hai, 4 regulative principles are there, we are surrendered to Guru. So this is very important because a lot of people do not give so much thought of avoiding food from restaurants. And you have all kinds of people working in restaurants. So you have to be very careful. Be very careful. Yeah. Okay. The great sage Vyasadeva could see this by his transcendental vision, as an astrologer can see the future fate of a man, or an astronomer can foretell the solar and lunar eclipses. Those liberated souls who can see through the scriptures can foretell the future of all mankind. They can see this due to their sharp vision of spiritual attainment. And all such transcendentalists are naturally devotees of the Lord, as they are always eager to render welfare service to the people in general. Now, why this is mentioned is because Vyasadeva, being the devotee of the Lord, what is he doing for the welfare?
Books, all these books and scriptures have been made available to us.
Correct. Correct. So a real friend is a person who is or who thinks about your welfare. And which is the best welfare you can do to anyone is give Krishna consciousness, because it is a permanent solution to all your problems. Yeah, other solutions can be temporary, material solutions. But a solution to everything is Krishna consciousness, because being in the material world, you can never solve any problem completely. Only after getting out of this material world can you solve the material problem. So therefore, Krishna consciousness is very important. Okay, so this is repeated. Okay, for example, in the present age, there are so many TB patients and TB hospitals, but formerly this was not so, because the time was not so unfavorable. You can see now also, see, Srila Prabhupada is talking about in the 70s or 60s when TB was, peak at that time. Now we've got a little more cure. But if you look around, you'll see that number of cancer cases has gone up. Earlier, I would hear cancer case only in movies. No one in the family, no one in the friend circle had. Now every second person says, I have cancer, or she has cancer. And they've gone through treatment, they've become cancer free also. But it's why? Because the time is not favorable. The unfortunate men of this age are always reluctant to give a reception to transcendentalists who are representatives of Srila Vyasadeva, and selfless workers always busy in planning something which may help everyone in all statuses and orders of life. The greatest philanthropists are those transcendentalists who represent the mission of Vyasa, Narad, Madhva, Chaitanya, Rupa, Saraswati, etc. He's talking about the entire Guru Parampara. Yeah, Madhva, yeah. Brahma, Madhava, Gaudiya Sampradaya, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Rupa Goswami, Bhakti, Siddhanta, Saraswati Thakur. They are all one and the same. So there is no difference between the gurus. They are all gurus. The personalities may be different, but what is it? The mission is the same, one and the same. To deliver all fallen souls back home, back to Godhead. Very important. Okay, so this is Chaturhotram Karma Shuddham
Chaturhotram karma shuddham
Prajanam Vikshya Vedikam
Prajanam vikshya vaidikam
Vyadadhadyajna Santatyai
Vyadadhadyajna santatyai
Vedam Ekam Chaturvidham.
Vedam ekam chaturvidham.
Chaturvidham, 4 divisions. Yeah. So what happened was he saw that the yagyas, the sacrifices mentioned in the Vedas, were means by which the people's occupations could be purified. Okay. And to simplify the process, he divided the one Veda into 4 in order to expand them among men. So everything was one Veda, but he made it into the 4 Vedas. And he saw that that was how he could help mankind. So formally, there was only one Veda called Yajur, and the 4 divisions of sacrifice were there specifically mentioned. But to make them more easily performable, the Veda was then divided into 4 divisions of sacrifice, just to purify the occupational service of the 4 orders. So above the 4 Vedas, namely Rig, Yajur, Sama and Atharva, then there are the Puranas, the Mahabharats, the Samhitas, etc., which are known as the 5th Veda. Mahabharat is known as the 5th Veda. Sri Vyasadeva and his many disciples were all historical personalities, and they were very kind and sympathetic towards the fallen souls in age of Kali. As such, the Puranas and Mahabharata were made from related historical facts which explain the teaching of the 4 Vedas. There is no point in doubting the authorities of the Puranas and Mahabharata as parts and parcels of the Vedas. In the Chandogya Upanishad, the Puranas and Mahabharata, generally known as histories, are mentioned as the 5th Veda. According to Sri Jiva Goswami, that is the way of ascertaining the respective values of the revealed scriptures. Okay. Rig Yajur Samarthar, Rig Yajur Samarthar Vakya.
Rig Yajur Samarthar Vakya
Vedas Chatvara Udhritaha.
Vedas Chatvara Udhritaha
Itihasa Puranam Cha.
Itihasam Puranam Cha
Panchamo Veda Uchyate.
Panchamo Veda Uchyate.
The 4 divisions of the original sources of knowledge, the Vedas, were made separately, but the historical facts, the authentic stories mentioned in the Puranas, are called the 5th Veda. Tatrarg Veda Dhara Paila.
तत्राग वेदाधरा पहला
Tamago Jaimini Kavihi.
सामगो जैमिनी कवि
Vaishampayana Evaiko.
वैशंपायन एवेको
Nishnato Yajushamuta.
निष्णातो यजुषामुता.
Okay, so after the Vedas were divided into 4 divisions, Paila Rishi became the professor of Rig Veda, Jaimini the professor of Sama Veda, Vaishampayana alone became glorified by the Yajur Veda. So different Vedas were entrusted to different learned scholars for development in various ways. So he delegated different divisions. Yeah. Atharvangirasam Asit. Someone?
Atharvangira Sam Asit.
Sumantur Daruno Munihi.
सुमंतरदारो मुनिः
इतिहास पुराणानाम्
इतिहास पुराणानां
पिता मे रोमहर्षणः
पितामि रोमहर्षणः.
The Sumantu Muni Angira, who was very devotedly engaged, was entrusted with Atharva Ved. And my father, Romaharshana, who's my father?
Sud Goswami's father?
Yeah, so Suta Goswami is saying, my father, Romaharshana, was entrusted with the Puranas and the Itihasas. In the Shruti mantras also it is stated that Angira Muni, who strictly followed the rigid principles of the Atharva Veda, was the leader of the followers of Atharva Veda. So we got Paila Muni, Jaimini Muni. So if you want, you can remember it. I can never remember. Taeta Rushayo Vedam.
Taetarasho Vedam
Swam Swam Vyasyan Anekada.
Swayam Vivasyan Anekada
Shishyai Prashishyai Stachishyai.
Shishyai Prashishyai Tat Shishyai
Vedaste Shakhino Bhavan.
Vedaste Shakhino Bhavan.
All these learned scholars in their turn rendered their entrusted Vedas unto their many disciples, grand disciples, great grand disciples, and thus the respective branches of the followers of the Vedas came into being. The original source of Veda, of knowledge, is the Vedas. Yeah. Vedeshta sarvam aham eva vedyo. Who's the source of the Vedas?
Krishna.
Yes. So original source of knowledge is Vedas, and the original source of the Vedas is Krishna. So they are both absolute. So they both are without fault. But what does the Vedas 96% teach us? Bhakti, correct? Yes?
No, they
No?
don't teach us bhakti. They
Oh, I
teach
thought
us
karma
Kam,
kanda.
Arth, Moksha, and one more thing.
Yeah.
I was also thinking Karma Kand, and I thought, no, better writing is my answer.
Yeah, because we've always learned, no? There's no need of studying the Vedas, right? We don't have that much time nor the inclination. We just need the Bhakti Shastris. And Vedas does not come under the Bhakti Shastri, correct? Bhakti Shastri means, I don't mean the course which you're doing, Bhakti Shastri course from Mayapur Institute or something. I mean to say the Shastras which teach us Bhakti. Yeah, the Vedas don't come under that. There are no branches of knowledge, either mundane or transcendental, which do not belong to the original text of the Vedas. They have simply been developed into different branches. They were originally rendered by great, respectable, and learned professors. In other words, the Vedic knowledge, broken into different branches by different disciplic successions, has been distributed all over the world. No one, therefore, can claim independent knowledge beyond the Vedas. And if they do, they are cheating you. People who speak without reading Shastra have no right to speak. But this is Kali Yuga. Okay, for 1.4.24. The eva veda durmedhair. I'll just read it, okay? Dharyante purushair yatha evam chakara bhagavan vyasa kripana vatsalaha. Kripana vatsalaha, very kind to ignorant masses. Somewhere else we heard this word, kripana.
I know it's in the Bhagavad Gita in the context of being miserly.
Karpanya.
Karpanya dosho pahata
Karpanya
svabhavaha pichamitvam dharma samuda chetaha Yakshreyasya nishchitam bruhitan me shishyasteham chadimam tvam prapannam.
So Arjuna is saying what? I am very miserly, no? Minded. Karpanya dosho. I am afflicted by miserliness. I have this dosha. So here also. Durjana, Kripana Durjana. There's another bhajan. Yeah. Bhajahure mana Sri Nandanandana. Yeah, he calls. In that there is this word. Kripana and Durjana. We are miserly and we are unfortunate. Why? Because even after getting this human form of life, we do not worship Radhesham. We do not take their names. We are so unfortunate. We are so miserly minded. So ignorant also. So Vyasadeva who is very kind to ignorant masses, edited the Vedas so they might be assimilated by less intellectual men. He was so kind to the Kripanas, the ignorant. The Veda is one, and the reasons for its divisions in many parts are explained here. The seed of all knowledge, or the Veda, is not a subject matter which can easily be understood by an ordinary man. There is a stricture that no one should try to learn the Vedas who is not a qualified Brahmin. This stricture has been wrongly interpreted in so many ways. The class of men who claim Brahminical qualifications simply by their birthright in the family of a Brahmin claim that the study of the Vedas is a monopoly of the Brahmin caste only. Another section of the people take this as an injustice to members of other castes who do not happen to take birth in Brahmin family, but both of them are misguided. The Vedas are subjects which had to be explained even to Brahmaji by the Supreme Lord. Therefore, the subject matter is understood by persons with exceptional qualities of goodness. Guna karma vibhagashaha, not by birth. Persons who are in the modes of passion and ignorance are unable to understand the subject matter of the Vedas or any transcendental spiritual topic. That's why we have to come to a platform of sattva. Yes, and therefore we have to follow the 4 regulative principles, which includes no onion, no garlic, because onion and garlic will put you in the mode of rajas and tamas, which then will make it difficult for you to understand subject matters. Correct? So if people say, why are you so strict and why is ISKCON so, strict? You see, because this is how I will understand transcendental spiritual matters. I'm not going to understand it unless I come in a platform of goodness. And even the foods we eat, you all have done foods in Rajas, Sattva, Rajas and Tamas from Bhagavad Gita? Yes? Yes, no, maybe?
Yes.
Mataji, that's in the 14th chapter, right? We would not come to that point actually.
Okay. So when you come to that, you will see that what are the foods which are in the 3 gunas. Also, one of the things about foods in tamas is anything which is cooked and kept beyond 6 hours is in tamas. So be careful. That doesn't apply to prasadam. But still, we should try to cook only enough prasadam for the one time. We ourselves have become very lazy, no? We want to cook subah sham ka ek saath and then aram se TV dekho. This entire subcontinent of India has been taken over by all the ladies of the house. What do? Taken over by family drama, no? All these serials, family serials. Ye bahu and that saas and this and I don't know what kind. I don't know, when I used to visit my aunt's place and all, she used to have her time. She's saying, don't disturb me. Now this serial is coming. From this time to this time is my serials. Don't disturb me. So cook in the morning, finish cooking for lunch, dinner, everything, rakh do, and then sit and watch your serials. That also is not good, right? So we have to come to the qualities of goodness. The ultimate goal of Vedic knowledge is Sri Krishna, the personality of Godhead. This personality is very rarely understood by those who are in the modes of passion and ignorance. Please remember, Krishna cannot be understood if you are in passion and ignorance. In the Satya Yuga, everyone was situated in mode of goodness. Gradually, the mode of goodness declined during Treta, Dwapar Yugas, and the general mass of people became corrupt. In the present age, the mode of goodness is almost nil. And so, for the general mass of people, the kind-hearted, powerful sage Srila Vyasadeva divided the Vedas in various ways so that they may be practically followed by less intelligent persons in the mode of passion and ignorance also. So it is explained in the next shloka. So let's see the next shloka. What does it say? Oh, most controversial. Stri Shudra Dvija Bandhunam Trayina Shruti Gochara Karma Shreyasi Mudhanam Shreya Evam Bhavediha Iti Bharatam Akhyanam Kripaya Munina Kritam. Oh, sorry. Out of compassion, the great sage thought it wise that this would enable men to achieve the ultimate goal of life. Thus, he compiled the great historical narration called the Mahabharata for women, laborers, and friends of the twice-born. So the fifth Veda, right? The friends of the twice-born families are those who are born in the families of Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, and Vaishyas, or the spiritually cultured families, but who themselves are not equal to their forefathers. So they are called, what are they called? What is the word used here? Dvija Bandhuna, of the friends of the twice-born, friends of the Brahmanas. Brahmanas are called twice-born. Yeah, so they are the Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, and Vaishyas. The purificatory activities begin even before the birth of the child, and the seed-giving reformatory process is called Garbhadhan Samskar. One who has not undergone such Garbhadhan Samskar or spiritual family planning is not accepted as being of an actual twice-born family. Wow. So that was the qualification. The Garbhadhan Samskar is followed by other purificatory processes, out of which the sacred thread ceremony is one. So we know that. So we know all the samskars, right? Garbhadhan, and then there's God Bharai, then there is cutting of the umbilical cord, then there is Chudakaran, Namkaran, so many things. Then Janeu, that also. This is performed at the time of spiritual initiation. After this particular samskar, one is rightly called a twice-born. One birth is calculated during the seed-giving samskar, and the second birth is calculated at the time of spiritual initiation. So twice-born. One who has been able to undergo such important samskars can be called as bona fide twice-born. If the father and mother do not undertake the process of spiritual family planning and simply beget children out of passion only, their children are called Dvija Bandhus. These Dvija Bandhus are certainly not as intelligent as children of the regular twice-born families. The Dvija Bandhus are classified with the Shudras and the women class, who are by nature less intelligent. The Shudras and the women class do not have to undergo any samskar save and accept the ceremony of marriage. So women don't go through that, no? Janeu and all that. We don't go through, so that's fine. The less intelligent, but of course, when we get initiated in ISKCON, we become Vaishnavas, higher than Brahmanas, correct? So, and the Gayatri mantra is given at the second initiation. The less intelligent classes of men, namely women, Shudras, and unqualified sons of the higher castes, are devoid of necessary qualifications to understand the purpose of the transcendental Vedas. For them, the Mahabharata was prepared. The purpose of Mahabharata is to administer the purpose of the Vedas, and therefore within this Mahabharata, the summary Veda of Bhagavad Gita is placed. The less intelligent are more interested in stories than philosophy, and therefore the philosophy of the Vedas in the form of Bhagavad Gita is spoken by Lord Krishna, and Vyasadeva and Lord Krishna are both on the transcendental plane, and therefore they collaborated in doing good to the fallen souls of this age. The Bhagavad Gita is the essence of all Vedic knowledge. It is the first book of spiritual values, as the Upanishads are. The Vedanta philosophy is the subject matter for study by spiritual graduates. Only the postgraduate spiritual student can enter into the spiritual or devotional service of the Lord. It is a great science, and the great professor is the Lord himself in the form of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And persons who are empowered by him can initiate others in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. So, are we bothered about whether we are born in a Brahmin family or not? No. What is the main learning is that we can all become, if we take up Krishna consciousness in our lives, and we can become empowered, by the Lord himself. So we need to just surrender. Any questions? Okay, this last verse and then we'll stop. Evam pravrittasya sada bhutanam shreyasi dvijaha sarvatmakena piyada natusya dhridayam tataha. O twice-born Brahmana, still his mind was not satisfied, although he engaged himself in working for the total welfare of all people. Vyasadeva, even after doing so much, such a vast project he undertook, even then his mind was not satisfied. Sri Vyasadeva, we'll do the next one also. Sri Vyasadeva was not satisfied with himself, although he had prepared literatures of Vedic value for the all-around welfare of the general mass of people. It was expected that he would be satisfied by all such activities, but ultimately, he was not satisfied. So what happened? I'll just read the translation here. Thus the sage, being dissatisfied at heart, at once began to reflect, because he knew the essence of religion, and he said within himself, let's see the next one and then I'll come back. What did he say to himself? He said, I have under strict disciplinary vows unpretentiously worshipped the Vedas, the spiritual masters, and the altar of sacrifice. I have also abided by the rulings and have shown the import of disciplic succession through the explanation of the Mahabharata, by which even women, Shudras, and others, friends of the twice-born, can see the path of religion. He said, I've gone through disciplinary vows. It's not just you sit down and you write the Vedas and all that, right? There has to be discipline, there has to be vows. He has worshipped the Vedas because it's the words from the Lord. He has worshipped the spiritual masters. He has worshipped the Yajna Kund. He has done everything according to the disciplic succession. But still, he wasn't satisfied. I am feeling incomplete, though I myself am fully equipped with everything required by the Vedas. Everything. He had the entire knowledge. He had everything. He was equipped with everything, but he was feeling incomplete. Let's do one more. This is so interesting. This may be because I did not specifically point out the devotional service of the Lord, which is dear both to perfect beings and to the infallible Lord. Now, if we go back one verse, he says, though I myself am fully equipped. Now, because he was fully equipped with complete knowledge, and if we go back two more verses, and he says, that he at once began to reflect. Now, when he was dissatisfied at heart and he was fully equipped with the entire knowledge, he began to reflect and think, what is the cause for the dissatisfaction? And what did he come to the conclusion? That he had not glorified the Lord enough. So whenever you are also dissatisfied with your spiritual sadhana or in your spiritual life, you at once have to begin reflecting on what has gone wrong. Have you offended someone, or have you not done something, or have you not been attentive in any kind of service? Or have you been mentally not present but physically present? You must try to reflect and see what is the reason you are dissatisfied. Now, this is the learning I wanted to put between these verses. Because Vyasadeva was completely equipped in his knowledge, the complete knowledge, he began to reflect. He did not think that, oh, but I have all the knowledge. I mean, I have done such a great job, and there is no need. Maybe, I just need to take a break, and maybe if I go to the Himalayas, to some hill station and rest and sleep for 10 days, I'll come back and I'll feel better. He didn't say that, did he? He didn't. Immediately he felt dissatisfied. He started reflecting. Acha, what has happened? Even after being equipped with all this knowledge, what has gone wrong? Maybe because I have not pointed out bhakti, because that is dear to both the perfect beings and to the Lord. Is that the reason? This was felt for the normal condition of the living being in the devotional service of the Lord. Unless one is fixed in the normal condition of service, neither the Lord nor the living being can be fully satisfied. This defect was felt by him when Narad Muni, his spiritual master, reached him, and it is described as follows. So the next few verses are the conversation between him and Narad Muni. So did he just say that, okay, I found out the reason. I did not point out the bhakti so much, because the normal condition for a living being is bhakti. So, okay, I think I'm right. Let me go ahead and do it. No. You have to approach your guru. Find out, am I thinking correct or am I wrong? Please guide me. Right? So, association is very important, and seva is very important, because you can be happy and satisfied only when you do devotional service. Devotional service does not mean only doing your 16 rounds, only attending classes, only following the 4 regulative principles. You have to do something in the temple, or something to serve a Vaishnava. Serving a Vaishnava doesn't mean just bringing a glass of water in a tray. Doesn't mean that. Mean following instructions, doing something tangible, anything small also, right? Then you will be satisfied. Then your sadhana will also increase. I'm sure after attending yesterday's Kirtan Mela, a lot of people must have had a surge in their chanting. There's always this surge, because whenever you're around a pure devotee, any Maharaj coming to your temple, any senior Vaishnava coming to your temple, just the Lavamatra Sadhu Sangha gives you a surge in your spiritual sadhana, right? Immediately the next day you would have got, your chanting would have really become like, wow, I'm so, I'm feeling so much energy. And then after a few days it dwindles, right? So very important, keep doing seva and keep having sadhu sangha. You're very fortunate to have such a nice temple nearby. I mean, for us, we only dream of such things. Okay, I'll stop here. Any questions, any realizations, anything you want to share, please go ahead.
I have a question about that is, suppose there is some near or dear one who brings something from out outside sweets or something, or if we go to somebody's marriage, or if we go to somebody's house who is not a person who is into bhakti, or so, what is the best way to deal with such things when we are sometimes once in a while if we come across these kind of things where we because of the social obligation.
If the person is very near and dear to you, then you should be able to communicate that you will have without onion garlic, but you can still have. You cannot avoid eating in a relative's house because they are the first people who will, point out and talk about you, and you can't cut away from your relatives. So if it is a very dear and near relative, you should, I think you should have the liberty to convey to them that I don't eat onion garlic.
That is conveyed, the
And,
onion garlic free, and anything from like some Haldiram or something, they bring sweets or something. Though once in a while,
Sweets is all right. Sweets normally sweets itself is in Sattva Gun. You cannot, especially milk sweets, you cannot contaminate the consciousness because the milk comes from a cow. Milk sweets are fine. Sweets are still all right. I'm talking about other things like cooked food. So as far as possible, you must avoid. If you still have to go to marriages and everything, and the thing is, we feel ki marriages hai, to this is the time, sab diet वाइट छोड़ के भी खा लो. It's as though we've never had food in our life. वो जो plate पे हम लोग इतना जो we keep ये भी डाल दो, वो भी डाल दो. You have to, first of all, you have to understand that you're not in this material world to eat, and I would suggest, if you cannot avoid, stick to raw food, salads and sweets, or even juices. But I would recommend you to eat less of cooked food in a person's house whose consciousness is not good. If you know the person's consciousness is good, he may not be a devotee, but if you know he's a very nice person, there's no harm in it. But you should be very aware of what goes in. It will affect your sadhana the next day, your consciousness the next day. So try to avoid and stick to salads. It's good for health also. You won't gain so much weight. Yes, Neha. I mean, won't you recommend as a fitness or a health,
Anytime.
a person that you shouldn't go to weddings and load your plate as though you've never eaten paneer and anything in your life. You should refrain from it anyways. Anyways, you should. And so try to stick to juices, any drinks like lassi or chas or juices, any salads and sweets. I think if you stick to that, you will be covered. You don't have to even worry about onion garlic if you go to sweets and drinks. No one's going to put onion garlic in your drink, right? Salads, yes, keep an eye out, but refrain. I would personally say refrain. You have to go to someone's house, you still can tell them. If you can't tell them, just say that, oh, I'm so sorry, I'll just have some fruits or some salad, or I'm just sticking to this, I'm on a diet. So if you're traveling and you can say, I'm allergic to onion and garlic, can you please make me something without that? You have to understand the most important thing in your life is Krishna consciousness. Only then you will make such choices. Yeah. So my family now knows that when I come, it's no onion, no garlic. So I go to my chachi's house every year, even if I'm there for a month and she calls me twice, thrice in that 1 month. She'll make that chole and bhature every time because that's the only thing she says that I can make without onion, garlic. So I'm eating chole bhature because she loves me. You know, I'm not going there to eat her chola bhatura. I'm going there to spend time with her. So मैं थोड़ा सा खा लेती हूँ जो बनाती है, but I eat. I know that she has a good heart. But other places you have to avoid as much as possible.
Thank you.
Anything else?
Mataji, I have one. Just in verse 17 and 18, we read that impatient due to lack of goodness. So many a times we also become impatient some or other way in our day-to-day routine. How we can understand this?
See, during the day, we can never be in full goodness. We are under the 3 modes. We will always be under the 3 modes. The Rajas, Tamas and Sattva, right? And when we are working or when at our workplace or when we are doing something, we are in Rajagun, right? And when we come back in the evening and we want to sleep in the night, we are in Tamas. Without Tamas, we cannot take our daily rest. But still, we are anxious because we make a choice of being in Rajas when we don't need to be in Rajas. We have a choice on how we react to certain things, you know. So let's say कि सुबह दूध वाला नहीं आया. You open the door and there's no milk outside. You नहीं आया, क्या हुआ, क्या हुआ, क्या हुआ, क्या? It's not that you're calm. अच्छा ठीक है, नहीं आया, आ जाएगा. नहीं आया तो मैं बाहर जाके ले आऊंगी. That's being in Sattvagun. Going all over the house, आज अभी तक दूध वाला नहीं आया, क्या है, ऐसे ही करते हैं, आते नहीं हैं, लेट होते हैं, अब क्या होगा? That's Rajas, right? So you have a choice. You know you know how to be balanced, you know how to be calm, you know it, but you let Rajas overtake Sattva. So therefore you become anxious. So every time there is a situation, you have a choice on how you're going to respond to that situation. And and that's why the foods you eat and all the other things in your life, all the other practices will bring you more into Sattvagun. So it becomes normal to you to be calm, to not, overreact, to not take things too seriously. Nahi aaya, koi baat nahi. Krishna willing, aa jayega. That is Sattvagun. But तुम रात को अगर you are sitting and you're so hyper कि नींद भी नहीं आ रही है, you can't, because without Tamagun you can't sleep. You need Tamas to sleep. But then in the morning, जब winter में 4 बजे उठना है और अलार्म बजते ही तुम और वो रजाई खींच के सो रहे हो, that is not Sattva, that is Tamas. That is Tamagun. Why? Because now you're lazy. क्योंकि ठंड लग रही है. So at that time, when you get out of bed, switch off the alarm at 4 o'clock and get out of bed, whether it is cold or not, whether you're feeling cold or not, then you're in Sattva. So the choice is always, that's why we are called Tathastha Shakti. We always have a choice. Ya to is taraf ya us taraf. We have a choice. Free will comes into play every minute. Every minute. Now, so many of people, you all have joined class today. Nobody forced you, na? You only clicked on the link and you only joined, na? When that Hare Krishna came, you accepted that, no? And you came. Nobody said you have to do it, Hema. Free will tha, na? The same thing, someone else in your group did not come today because they chose some other activity. So free will is always there. So whenever you're in a situation, what makes you anxious is your choice. Right. So
Yes,
So
thank
we
you so
do
much.
all the things which Srila Prabhupada says to bring us in Sattva Guna. Because we don't have to remain in Sattva Guna. We have to transcend. We have to go beyond. We have to go to Shuddha Sattva. That the sadhana will take us.
Yes.
The more Sattva you are in, the more easier your sadhana is. More easy. The more you can sit, the more you can concentrate. So you have to slowly purify yourself and bring yourself to Sattva and then go beyond, go to Shuddha Sattva. So these choices also matter. What you eat, where you go, whom you associate with, what are you reading, what are you listening? All these things affect your three moods. If you're reading things or watching things which is in Rajas or Tamas, it affects. You will also become Rajas and Tamas. All these things matters. It's not just doing 16 rounds. What you eat, what you hear, what you read, what you see, everything. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Mataji.
Okay, anything else? Okay, so we'll stop for today. Grantraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Panchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhyaiva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hari Bol.